On this Byron Lazine podcast, I get to do another pod with Liz Novello. I think on Instagram you're going by Liz Vaynerchuk Novello. Somebody crashes the pod at the end. We go deep on motherhood. We talk about New Jersey. We talk about some New York Giants, what I like, and some Jets. You do not want to miss this pod. So this is so cool because the first pod you ever did,
yes,
we did it together. Correct. I came down to Jersey. Wasn't that bad of a drive from Connecticut.
You loved it.
Yeah, and you were like, you know what? I've been asked over 100 times to do a podcast, and
it's true.
The first one was with me, so I'm very thankful for that, and I'm grateful that you're willing to do another pod.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I'm like so excited, and it's true. The first podcast that I did was yours. I was asked by many people, and I was very selective on who I felt comfortable with and that I trusted, and I think we had a great podcast.
That was such a good pod. I mean, I had such a good time, and you've probably done hundreds now in between. So because that was
I've done a few, but still, this is so special, and it's my first summit to be here with you.
This is your first summit? First
summit.
I didn't know that.
I've only done virtual.
Okay.
And it's so overwhelming. I usually don't get overwhelmed by a lot of people, but it's been so interesting because there's so many people that know each other, a lot of energy, a lot of different personalities, and connecting with people that I have communicated with, have built relationships with, but never actually have met in person. So it's been so special in a lot of ways. And just sitting in the morning session, just all the information. And at the end of the day, I always recognize it's about execution and, you know, writing down these ideas, what people are doing. But this ecosystem of everybody wanting to help one another is amazing.
And all these relationships that we have, they mean a lot more when you actually connect. Like you and I have met in person and hung out, but for all those other people that maybe you haven't met in person, it's going to be a lot deeper now online than it ever was before. Correct. when you come out of here. And so I don't think this kind of stuff's ever going away. I actually think it's just going to keep getting more amplified.
Yep.
You know, live events and so I didn't know that. I thought you've probably been to like Sotheby's events because you're Sotheby's, right?
Well,
you go to Sotheby's.
You know what?
Or?
Sotheby's didn't have an event. I've been to events with my brother.
Yeah.
But I'm backstage. I've never actually been in the audience
doing
for
the whole experience.
Right, or I have like a side seat for the sister. You know, so I've never experienced being out there, and just meeting new people.
By the way, I have a lantern for you because Nicole was texting me saying, give that to Liz because I'm not going to be back. So you can go sit next to Nicole.
She's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the best. Yeah.
You ran into her.
I tried. I didn't realize there's like really hyped up security. Good job, Tom Ferry. So I went. I was like, these are my friends. So I went to sit and the security guy was like, no, you're not in this section. I'm like, please, they're my friends, my friends. I'm like, where am I going?
It is very tasty. You're in coaching though?
I am.
Yeah.
I've been in coaching literally 13 days into real estate. I met Tom Ferry.
Yeah.
And
we were at the same event and we didn't realize it. We were at
Agent 2021 where I met Tom. And within a week, I started coaching. And then a couple weeks later, like 2 weeks later, he called me and said, what are you doing? And that was like a very big moment in my career where I really needed to decide, am I moving forward to actually do business or am I dabbling and continuing to be a secret agent?
Yeah. So how many total years in? 4?
So I'm 4 years in.
Yeah.
January to start my 5th year, and I've always like heard or been taught like it takes 5 years to build a business.
Well, it's 80, and it's 87% fail by their 4th year, so it is that like moment.
For sure.
How do you feel about it?
I'm really excited. Like today, when I hear Tom Toole has been in business for so many years, it energizes me because I know that I'm just getting started, even though I'm in my 4th year, and just thinking about where I'm going to be, where I'm going to be in the next 3 to 5 years is exciting. But, thinking about all the speakers today, something that really resonated with me was the speakers that talk about their real life shit.
Yeah.
Something that I notice in this industry, especially because, I went from being a teacher, which is a very different vibe, very different culture, and relationships and conversations, and then being in real estate and having these one-on-one talks behind the scenes with agents. And in real estate, we make a lot of money. And so it's very easy to feel really good about yourself, base your value on how much you're making. And then if the market shifts and you're not good about
your feelings and momentum can shift.
Correct.
Yeah. But what I've loved about you over the 4 years of starting your career in real estate is you never shied away from like, oh yeah, I'm new and here's my, like, you didn't stand up on like any of the advantages you had with connections. And we talked about this, I think, even in the last pod where you're like, yeah, I wasn't even granted those for, starting my career.
Yeah, my family feels like I need to earn them. So, yeah.
And you did. And you went out there and did something that new agents should do more of, which is say, I'm new.
Yes.
I'm on this path. Here's how I'm doing it, and go deep into the community like you did.
I think it's very simple. I think when you're honest, people respect that.
Yeah.
You're not tricking anybody because everything's, you can Google anything, right? How many years have people been in business? You can find out about them. So for me, I didn't stand on anybody's shoulders because I was raised to earn things. And I also wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. Now, have I had some clients that have been amazing, and even through, this year with Vayner Sports, my youngest brother and Gary also, AJ and Gary have a sports company, agency, and so working with clients. But, I'm very private with some of my clients to give them that respect, because I feel like I am able to give them that privacy and they trust me in that regard. So, definitely getting some of the family connections. My dad is my best and my worst client. I even referred him out.
Does he buy and sell a lot?
I got into real estate truly because of my parents. They immigrated to this country in 79, and within 5 years they bought their first home, and we used to go on weekends to open houses. And my parents built their dream house. My dad built his store. His man cave is nicer than my house. Like, he has a love of construction, of building. My dad's a builder. And I really became passionate. Like, I have a true passion for homes, for that connection, and something that I'm thinking about, moving forward in my business because I love it so much. I became a solo agent in January.
Yes.
And
out of team to solo.
Correct.
So we can touch on that too.
And so kind of thinking about what direction do I want to take it? And honestly, since January, I have not been fast with my decisions. I have been very slow, and I'm the first
Purposefully?
one. I think because of the slowdown in the market, right? The last 2 months, personal reasons. I'm a mom, and
we chatted a little bit during COVID. You're like, hey, I'm so focused on the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like I spent 2+ years giving myself to every single client. I would do the things that maybe, I kind of feel like Tom would say, don't do that. But I would show a $3 million house, and then I would show a $280,000 condo that was like 30 minutes away, because I am very rushed. I get that rush, that high feeling from what I do. And it wasn't smart because I was never home. And I felt like I needed to start taking back. So January, I was like, okay, in December, I'm officially leaving January 1st. And I want to be very thoughtful on what my next steps are. I think that for me personally, I like to think about things before I jump into doing them. And that works for me because I'm here for the long game. I am, thinking 5, 10, 15 years from now. I think there's so much time and there's so much abundance that I feel that the decisions I make, I want to be smart about them. Like, a lot of people are asking me, are you going to start a team? I feel like I could start a team. I think I have a lot of great qualities of a team leader, but I'm also taking away the things I didn't like about a team setting. And if I'm going to provide something better, So just very thoughtful on next step moves, and hence why I needed to physically be here. It couldn't be virtual for me. I needed to interact with other agents, other team leaders, other, new agents, other superstar agents.
Yeah, if you're listening, wondering where we are, we're at Tom Ferry Summit in Dallas. Just thinking, where the heck are they?
Right. Yeah.
So this is obviously already past when you're listening to this. We were talking about on the Uber ride over, though. You had said, "Oh, I saw that." That clip and about the diapers and really understanding, like you just said, I wasn't home a lot and I need to be home. I'm a little more comfortable not being home necessarily a lot, and it's got to work for your family, knowing your situation, and then knowing, okay, this is the time that I'm putting into my work. And that's either going to be me building the team or me not building the team or getting into construction or whatever that avenue is. I don't really know how you describe it. Like, I don't think there's really work-life balance thing. I think it's just like, what's my life look like? But how are you thinking about, like, after you said, I need more time at home?
Yes.
What does that look like for you? And then how's the business fit in?
I think I shared with you that my kids are now 9 and 12 and a half. I'm headed in a very different time. My son Max.
For the last 2 years, it was different.
It was different. We were coasting. We went from, I used to worry about, which sippy cup worked and how daylight savings would affect the naps, to now real stuff like, my son having his first fight with a friend and dealing with that. My daughter just broke her toe and at camp, and she was disappointed. Like, it just felt like a lot of things started piling on personally, and it made me realize, like, I do have the ability to step back and refocus, and I want to be more purposeful in my business. And that's why I'm like, you know what, maybe showing a $3 million house is a yes, and maybe referring the $280,000 condo, which is what I ended up doing. Because my coach, I think, yelled at me.
So you're referring business out that you don't want, and then you're choosing, this is the segment of the market that I want to serve.
Correct. And there are times where, I really enjoy being in the process with my clients, and I give 150% every single day. I'm always available. So also, would like to start having some boundaries. I need to work on that. But I think everybody's growing, and people grow at different stages in their life. And it's so fascinating to watch women that are older, that have children, or still are parenting. I just find it so fascinating. Or people like, again, coming back to Tom Toole being in the business for so long, he says that he, learned from my mistakes. We all have to learn. And that's the beauty of life, right?
Yeah. And I get the privilege of talking to Tom Toole 3 times a week. Like, we're accountability partners, so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And he's been in the business so long, but what I love about him and others that we're all going to get to hang out with here this week, it's like, he has a thirst for learning every single day. I want to know some more information, so that, because we're all going to make mistakes, right?
Sure.
There's going to be Tom's gone through where he had to remake the team, basically, a couple of years ago. And this is where we get all that information so that we can go and apply it to our businesses. And
it's like the debate for me on starting a team or not, like, that was totally off the table at first, just because I was so done with the team. Like, I stayed a little too long.
What did you hate about a real estate team?
I think everything's individual, but I truly believe not all teams are created equal. And there's a lot of teams. And
I would agree with that.
I think a lot of the push is for teams. And I would challenge and say, what is a true team? It's having a leader that is there for his partners. Or her partners, correct. It is giving education. I think being available, because I really truly think of it as what I know, parenthood. I feel like if I'm raising a team, that I need to be there for them during difficult challenges. So I don't want to be out on a Saturday, which is rare for me because we need a babysitter again. But I don't want to be out on a Saturday and have one of my partners feels stranded and they can't figure something out. And, you know, I've been there where, especially when I first started, I was like in an office at 6 o'clock and I was trying to figure out how to write up a contract. The great news is you really can Google everything.
Yeah.
I Google so much stuff, you
And
know.
I would, to your point, not all teams are created equal.
Sure.
And there's many different variations of a team.
Definitely.
I do believe the single agent, like you're talking about this next level.
Yes.
I think it's going to be a team, Liz, because I think you're probably going to figure out whether you're growing what looks like a big team or agents, or you're going to hire staff.
Right.
You know, some type of, which I would argue is if you have one assistant, you are a team.
I mean, I do have
Maybe
an
advertised
assistant.
so right now I would say you already have a team.
I'm really excited about my assistant. My little brother AJ gifted me a assistant
Wow.
for 3 months. I know. My
Virtual or
virtual.
in
Virtual assistant as a gift
Yeah.
for my birthday because he knows I'm really cheap. And-
Virtue Desk is walking in the door right after this. I'm big on virtual assistants.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. And it took me a little while because, you know, I was raised in an immigrant mentality. So I didn't want to share anything with her, not a credit card, not this, not that. I'm like, I need to order the gift, but I can't give you my credit card number, you know? So I had to step back. And so I'm 1 year in and it's the best decision. Like even just being here and texting her to do something for one of our clients is a relief.
Yeah, that's
you
a
know?
team.
Okay.
And you may never out of the country?
No.
In the
Yes.
US. So it's easier for you to meet
Yes.
with that person if you wanted to.
Yes.
Have you ever met him or
I
her?
haven't met her.
No.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool gift.
He's so good. He's the analytical one. He's the one that is really organized. So we just went to New York Jets training camp.
I saw that on Instagram.
And literally I was like, you know what? I need to read the packet they sent because I don't want to call AJ and be like, where am I going? Because I know my older brother is going to do that. So when my older brother arrived, I'm like, what? You didn't call AJ? And I didn't call AJ. I'm like, aren't you so happy? And he's much younger than us. He's almost 8 years younger than me and 11 years younger than Gary. But we rely on him to, you know, schedule. Even when we're on a vacation
He's
together.
the organizer?
He's the organizer. He like made a schedule. I'm so not like that. That's why I love having an assistant. Like getting all the takeaways and all the things that I learned. I know that things need to have order and I am in scheduling with my kids. But in my business, I like hate it. So it's a gift for me to be able to call the assistant and be like, hey, I need you to do this. And I don't have to touch a spreadsheet.
Was he using VAs?
Yes, but he has assistants.
Like both virtual and
I think he started
office
virtual
yeah.
or physical assistants. He's always had an assistant. He thinks it's a luxury. Your time is worth more.
Do you feel overwhelmed and too busy building your real estate business right now to do things you know you should be doing, like posting on social media, doing clips like we're doing on Broke Agent Media, these short little reels and TikToks every single day to keep up with the content machine that you need to be keeping up with? Or maybe it's the transactions that are wasting all your time so you're not actually lead generating and doing the income producing activities that you know are going to help you make the most amount of money in the investments that you want into your future. This is why I have used virtual assistants and use them today with Virtue Desk to help scale both of my companies. See, I wouldn't be able to make all of these clips and do all of these other things I'm doing without the help of somebody taking off these non-income producing activities that need to get done to be of great service to our clients. So at least have the conversation. Click the link, have the conversation with Virtue Desk. In fact, you can just start interviewing people without really any commitment at all. So at least start interviewing, seeing if there's somebody that is a fit for you, your values, your team, that can add and take away all of the things that you're doing right now. Have the conversation today. You will not regret it. Yes, and when you're talking about a $3 million listing appointment or, you know, buyer appointment, absolutely. I mean, how many more of those can you go on and not be doing whether it's the paperwork or an email or whatever, right? That's just going to slow you down.
And I think there's nothing wrong with knowing who you are and what you need. Mm-hmm. I think everybody wants to act like they're so perfect or they can do everything or they enjoy everything. It's okay to say like, hey, I'm really not good at this. Not every big agent out there is solid on paperwork.
Yeah.
that's such a waste of time. So I more freely give myself grace on things that I'm not good at and outsource them. So the things that I'm really good at, like connecting with people, that I feel like I can't buy or like, resource that out with my...
No, that's the one thing you're not going to... Your
Right.
content.
That's right.
Because you actually have to be in it.
Yes.
Or, be in most of it.
Yes.
And certainly sitting down with clients, right?
Definitely.
That's going to be the three, or you said the sports,
Yes.
the athlete, right? Which
Yes.
that's probably a better
So fun.
business than like the divorce, because they're traded, cut, every 2-3 years, they've got to do a buy and a sell.
And especially when I get, being in Jersey, getting to work with the New York Jets, like that's been so fun. One of them that I was helping, he had like a pulled hamstring. So I said, I'm going downstairs. Don't go downstairs because I need his leg to work for our season. So those kind of things. But it's been such a pleasure. I've, helped some New York Jets and Giants, and it's been fun. It's been really fun.
Are you a Jets fan?
I'm a Jets fan by default, right?
I'm a Giants fan. So
You got a great new not head coach. You got a great new coach.
new head coach?
Mike Kafka.
Okay.
He's awesome.
He's on the staff under the table.
He's really great. Really nice guy. And so I think that being a Jets fan, when I look at my son and he was in first grade, he said, nobody's a Jets fan. I'm the only one. And I said, Max, we're going to cry a lot. But I promise you, if your uncle eventually owns them, it's going to be the best highlight of your life,
Yeah, you don't want to be shunned because you're a Giants fan.
Totally, because my brother would do that.
How many have you had more Giants clients or Jets clients?
A Jet that became a Giant. That was fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think I know who that is. Yeah,
That was my first deal.
He makes some money, so that's a good deal.
It was crazy. My first deal was a rental for him because a lot of athletes, they don't know where they're going to be unless they're signing a mega deal. They don't really want to put their roots in the ground.
That's what I'm.
So
more rentals,
high end rentals.
But yeah, of course.
But what happened was there weren't a lot of rentals, and rentals are skyrocketed right now. So that I had to explain to one of the players, we're not going to get a place for your dog as easily. And you're going to be paying this amount of money on a mortgage. And there were some beautiful new properties being built by the 7 minutes from the facility. And I said, you should buy that. And then you can always rent it out to the next Jets player.
I imagine you have to move super quick. Like somebody's coming to town, they get traded. They need to you've got to just jump on that.
And they all come with a huge team. That was something that the first time was very overwhelming.
So was it 2 apartments or 3?
So it was one apartment, not apartment. It was one house for this player. But it was crazy. Literally, I was like, I would love to just be the NFL real estate agent. I'm putting it out there.
That might be a little content for you.
Totally. Yeah. But I try to keep my really high profile people private, and not that they even ask. I just think that
out of respect.
Sure. And out of professionalism.
Telling the stories like you just did without any names is appropriate, unless they say, there might be NDAs and that kind of thing sometimes.
Totally,
but
yes.
Yeah, very cool. That'd be a really cool niche. And there's 2 teams right there. So,
right there.
It's not like...
It was pretty amazing. The Giants person, they called me because I was the sister of AJ, right? And they're friends. And there is a Giants real estate agent. And so...
how? They're a sponsor of it?
No,
or?
There's an agent that has just really helped all the coaches and things and, some of the players. And so after doing it for 30 years. And so when they called me, they were looking at certain areas, the area that I cover. So they were looking at Short Hills, which is a really beautiful town. My dad owns a business right there. Yeah. And I know it well. And it's the #1 school in New Jersey almost every single year for a decade. And they were asking about private schools. And I said, listen, even if you use that agent, I'll give you all my resources. I'll give you my pediatrician. I'll give you, the kid's orthodontist. I'll give you my best friend's number. Her kids go to that private school. You should speak with her. She called my friend. And then she's like, hey, we just want to work with you. We know that we were given this opportunity. At first they were like, listen, they want us to use this agent. But then I was like, here, have everything. And then I got a call and they're like, Liz, we just like you and we want you to be our agent. I'm like, done. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yes.
What's the market look like? Are you doing Manhattan and Jersey or a little bit of both?
I'm not. The only way I'm doing Manhattan is when they leave Manhattan and come to Jersey.
Okay, so you're just staying in Jersey.
I'm just staying in Jersey. I did have my license in New York, but I just think that I couldn't do both well, and I'm not commuting to the city. There's plenty of great agents. That's a whole different animal. So
not yet. Market has shifted, and what's your feel of it in North Jersey?
It feels like pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
It feels like
normalized then?
Normalized market. The prices are still there. I just looked this morning, and for houses that are just going under contract now, they're going a tad under list price, which excites me because we were in a crazy market. There were many people that wanted a house and then they couldn't because you only have what you have, right? Like my clients were making offers for 150 over asking. Oh, it's
Did that scare you to put those offers in?
Well, I'm very cautious with money.
Yeah.
I'm not a risk taker all the time. And so advising them on what that looks like, I wasn't nervous in good areas, right? Like markets that hold their value. I was concerned when you're overpaying in an area that generally doesn't.
What kind of questions would you ask somebody in one of those areas where you're like, I don't see the future, so why do you want to invest in it? What questions did you ask that buyer that wanted to spend $100,000 over in an area that maybe didn't have the future?
How long are you going to live there?
Yeah. That's
like the number one. If this is a
great question.
Starter home, that is not where I think you should invest because you're not, usually your first home is not, the home that you can spend the most money on, right? And so for people who are buying a home for the second or third time, they're a little more educated. So things like, how long are you going to live here? Do you have to make any repairs? Because at this point, everybody was waiving. That was another thing. I did not let my clients waive because I shouldn't say I didn't let. I educated my clients highly, and I'm so lucky.
Strongly encouraged against.
I'm so lucky. New Jersey is an attorney state, so I work very closely with a great lender, a great attorney. So the attorney would have these free consultations and talk about waiving inspections, what that actually means. So we use different strategies like offering $15,000 towards any inspection issues, which should cover most things, but not like if there's an underground oil tank. I don't know if you have that. Do you have that in Connecticut?
Connecticut underground oil. Actually, my radio show sponsor does that. He takes out underground oil tanks and then installs new ones.
That's amazing.
Martin McKinney, Service Station
Mark.
Equipment.
Yes.
Martin, shout out to Martin's Money.
Martin, there you go.
I've been doing the radio for 7 years.
Wow.
So local radio show. He was a big advertiser. Just like
amazing
running at, just typical ads. They said, hey, do you want a show? He's just like, he's like an old school guy that has this business and they do a whole bunch of other stuff. He's got like 7 different companies in Connecticut, all in this like oil type of business. And he's like, no, but I got a guy who I'll put in place. And so we call it real estate radio. And it's been a great way because nobody does FM radio, but people that still listen to FM radio, especially, this is a political talk. It's talk. They never turn the dial. Those people are so passionate. We don't talk politics. We just talk the real estate, the economy, but they never turn the dial. It's on all the time. Those people aren't on like Spotify, right? So it's where's the attention, and we're able to get it, especially like this time of year
Yes.
when we're getting into elections, like the attention is ratcheted up
Right.
on that channel. It's worked out really well for us locally because
Sure.
we have the sponsor. We do this Martin's Money thing where we give away gift cards. And so I've always
love
encouraged
that.
people to like think about that if they're in a smaller, you know, wouldn't work in Manhattan.
Sure.
Right? You're not going to compete against like the Fan or something.
Right.
But
Fan's good.
yeah, that Fan's great.
Yes.
But it might work in a small little town in America.
Sure.
Right? And so you just got to know your market and where can you get attention.
I think that's so clever, just thinking outside the box and knowing your market and what works, because we're all in different markets, you know, some of the same, but you can market in so many different ways. That's what I love about this business. There's so many different ways to market. There's so many different types of relationships. There's so many different, my deals are always different. I love that, the change of it, even though I hate change, but like I love the change of every day.
You're a thinker.
I am.
I've known that for a while. You
Yes.
shared that online, you shared that
Yes.
with me, and you just said it earlier in the
Yes.
pod. Like you are thinking and
Yes.
analyzing. I know you've said when TikTok was, you're like, Byron, Gary says I need to be doing TikTok.
Yes.
You should be doing it.
Yes.
I didn't do it. I was
Okay.
like, I just don't have the time, the capacity.
Right.
And then I did get into it finally,
Okay.
like probably a year after you told me to
Yes.
do it. So I sat on it for a year.
I get it.
And you were saying the same thing. You're like, I'm not doing it. I'm not taking the action, but I know I need to. You know, and it's just this overthinking.
And I think that we all hear people like Tom Ferry or my brother Gary V. They're, you know, I think people hear it, but you have to do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
I noticed for me, I documented every single day for over 3 years, maybe 3.5 years. And I got burnt out.
On Instagram stories.
On Instagram.
Yeah, you were crushing stories.
I dominated. And I got a lot of business from it. And it was the consistency. So anything you do a lot. I'm tired of that a little bit. I noticed a shift in the platform. Everybody's definitely, you know, in TikTok land, from my 12-year-old to a grandma. Like everybody wants TikTok. And I think there's going to be a shift in that too. And with everything,
Of course.
it ebbs and flows. And the big thing, my brother, I think, just announced that he's going back to Facebook Reels
Yeah,
or
and-
something. I heard.
Yeah, I
like-
actually, that was a real estate conference.
Yes.
Or he's probably said it a bunch of times, but the one clip that I saw was, I think, Evolve. Taya?
Yes, it was.
By the way, Taya DiCarlo she's going to crash
Hello.
at some point. Jump in here, Taya. I think it was called Evolve.
It was, yes.
And it was in Vegas. And I caught a 15-minute clip. Yeah, jump in here,
Come
Taya.
in, come in. Taya's joining us. I'm
You
so
guys had a
excited.
wild night last night.
Wild.
You know,
Two moms on the loose.
two moms
Mom's
on
gone
the
wild.
loose.
Yes.
But I saw that clip and I actually sent it to Eric, my partner in
Yes.
BAM, and I said, because we're pretty heavy with like the Broke Agent brand on Instagram, right?
Yes.
It's like it was built up on Instagram.
Yes.
And even our content that we've been creating for BAM specifically, it's like it's been so Instagram focused. Like every post we're
Shift.
making is like, and so I'm like, I sent
Yeah.
it to him and he, you know, Eric, he
I
gets like
know.
nervous
He
about
gets- he's
everything.
nervous, but he's
like a nervous. He's like, oh my gosh.
he's
oh my
very
gosh.
thoughtful.
Very thoughtful.
You
Extremely
know,
thoughtful.
I
He's
gotta
creative.
say, if I listened to everything my brother said, I would be leaps and bounds ahead of the game. But I think you have to do what you're comfortable with, right? Like,
Well, also, we're spending the attention to make a great post on Instagram. Do the same thing for Facebook. Don't just like only make content and just put it everywhere because it may not do
Yes.
well on Facebook.
Yes.
Like making TikTok content specific for that platform, if you do it and post it and upload it enough, it does really well. But that's not going to work on LinkedIn. And so
Right.
part of our meeting last night here was just like talking about that strategy.
They're different languages.
Yeah.
All those mediums are different languages, right? Like LinkedIn is a very specific language, and there are people who are only on LinkedIn.
And we have the writers to dominate LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
And we're posting links, and we're just like, we're actually embarrassed of our LinkedIn
But that's
strategy.
okay. It's a missed opportunity. I think that and you guys are going to pivot and adjust that. There's a big difference between having knowledge and knowing something and actually executing
Definitely.
it. And when you get into the flow of saying, okay, I have this great idea or this great piece of content, and I'm going to speak the language for LinkedIn. But then what's cool is that I feel like Facebook and Instagram are like synonymous. You know what I mean? Like you can post something similar because the audiences are similar. Whereas
Yeah,
you know
at
TikTok
least
what?
just get
Actually,
something on there, yeah.
I'm much more thoughtful about what I'm posting in Facebook. I felt like after my brother announced that, I said, oh, maybe I should get on that. So I've been dilly-dallying in my Facebook land, and I do have a different audience. Facebook, the reason I went on Instagram was it was safe for me because most of my friends were not on Instagram yet. And
You felt like you could be a character.
Correct.
That's how I feel about TikTok.
Right.
TikTok is like a whole new
It's like
audience.
my wild side.
It is
Facebook.
the
I was on
wild west.
Facebook, before I was pregnant with my kids, so
Yeah.
like that.
High school peeps.
It's like I did.
It was the first one for all
Do you
of us,
guys
yeah.
remember when you would write, Liz Novello is eating popcorn and
As the kids say,
watching-
cringe, so cringe.
Eric will take his
Oh
13-year
my
screenshot
gosh.
and he does
Yes.
that, and so he'll put them on his personal Instagram
Awful.
story. They're just hilarious. 'cause he
Liz
recalls them.
Novello is having a great day. I'm like,
God.
ah!
Yeah, you
That's
don't even
how-
want to go to mine.
There is somebody that I'm connected with that still does that. I'm like, no,
gotta tell them.
why?
That's awesome.
And
Stop
they're kind of
them.
young. I feel like I should, but it's kind of.
I feel like it should make a comeback.
It might. You know what? Should we start it?
Should we start?
We
You
could
and I
probably
will
make some
like-
merch that looks like the old Facebook
Be like,
post.
Yes. I love
Liz and Taya are enjoying murder mysteries
Yes.
Totally.
on Dateline.
Totally. Falling asleep to them.
So you guys were chatting a whole
Soothing,
bunch
so
last night.
soothing.
You did Glenda's thing
Yes.
the other night. What is the most fascinating thing to you about Liz? You guys just met, so like,
no, we're actually
We're friends.
We're
guys
friends.
are friends
We're
from-
virtual friends.
Yes.
You guys were talking about
but you
virtual
just met in
assistants.
person out here?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is our first time. But
Which it took us a second because I'm like, wait, we didn't meet? Like
we've been talking for years,
Yes,
I feel like.
Yes.
And so when she walked in to the hotel, our eyes locked. And we were
That's
like,
right.
wait. I was
Romance.
like, I go, Liz.
Taya was also wearing Gem. Like, you may not know who Gem is. In the 80s, if you were...
Drop a comment if you know who Gem
Yes.
and the holograms are.
She was wearing these Gem boots, and I
So fashionable.
really love them. So I was like, Taya.
Metallic
Yeah.
pink stiletto boots.
Yes.
Because I'm a Californian in Texas, so I
That's
was
it.
like, meow, I'm gonna wear black with like splash of pink for this ladies event. And when Liz walked in, it was one of those moments where you recognize each other because you've been DMing each other and communicating, and you're like, oh my God, is this the first time we've actually met? And then we just were chit-chatting like we were old, like lifelong
Yes.
friends.
Yes.
And then by the end of the night, I'm like, I'm starving. She's like, me too. And then we joined two other ladies, and we just were laughing until we cried. I
Yes.
mean, we shut down the restaurant. They had to escort
They
us out.
kicked us out, actually. They kicked us out.
That's the best part about, like, we've got to hang out so many times at these, and it's that laughter and that's that real connection where you can go deep on a topic like that you just don't get in an Instagram DM is what's so special.
Something
about
I'm
this.
going to compliment Taya on is that she is the same person that she is on
Both
screen.
you guys are so authentic.
Thank you.
and behind the scenes. And I
Yes.
think it's very interesting when you meet people
Yeah.
in person, sometimes they're a different
It's a big
person,
letdown. I mean, let's be
right?
real. Sometimes it's a big
okay,
letdown.
Fine. Yes. And you're like, oh, you think I didn't expect that from them. I thought this was going to be like, like
And for us it was. It
Right.
was-
For us it was. So I think that's something that's so important is I get it. Being on screen for some people is the way they want people to see them. And we talked about this last night. I thought this was very thoughtful too. Both, I don't want to speak for you and tell me if I'm wrong. I think we both are thoughtful. Like, we put ourselves out there, but we are private. And I think you can have both. When a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to share that. Well, then don't.
Yeah.
You can control that. You are the creator, the narrator, you are the one who's going to be the gatekeeper. And what's funny is that people who watch the show and listen and follow me, they know me as this open book, right? And so I almost give this air that I'm spilling the beans and that like I'm going to reveal everything. When the people who really know me,
Yes.
they know. They're like, Taya is withholding a lot because I pick and choose the stuff that I
Definitely.
want to share.
Definitely.
It's not anybody's business. Like when I shared about what I'm going through with my separation and stuff, it's like, don't worry, guys. Like, or or don't be disappointed. You're not going to get all the dirt. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to control the controllables and control the narrative because it's important to me. Privacy, especially in the world that we live in.
Absolutely.
It can get out of hand if you spill too much. You have to be really intentional about the information that you share, and always come from a place of contribution. Because if you're just blabbing,
Definitely.
it just comes off the wrong way.
Blabbing is fun to a point, right?
Yeah.
Like, and blabbing when you have a good personality, but you also need to provide value, as we know, and I think we all strive for, right?
Yeah.
That's how we like to keep our engagement with the people we connect with and people watching us. But, you know, there's also something that I'm so thoughtful about is sharing about my children. And I go back and forth because they don't choose for me to share things. I would love to kind of share some personal stuff because I think the thing I'm most passionate about in life is being a mom. And I want to talk about motherhood because nothing can F me up more than my kids. Like, a deal is nothing compared to
You're like, do you
some
know what I've been
situations,
through?
right? And it's hard. I think in real estate as women, I'm not that person that are like, I grew up with two brothers. I tell my daughter she has the same rights as her brother. Like, yes, in the world we live in, not so much in certain states especially, but you know, I definitely think being a mom, being a businesswoman, like, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It really is.
And there's not enough conversation around it.
It's
There just isn't.
being a mother is the hardest job, and then obviously being a real estate agent is also hard. I mean,
Yes.
it's stressful because it's somebody else's most stressful time in their life. So, what I always, I always say to the guys on the team, I'm like, you guys, single dudes, have no excuse because we
heard
have
you say it.
single
Yeah.
mothers that are like
Killing it.
taking care of two
Yeah.
kids, and like, you have no excuse if you're not like making your calls.
I love when
as a
people tell
single
me
dude.
they're busy. I'm like, oh, you're busy?
Yeah,
That's cute.
That's real cute.
I'll show you fucking busy.
And
like,
being,
you know what I mean? I'll
being
make
a
your
mom
head
is real
spin.
busy.
Yes, it
to
is.
me, it's just different. Like, you can say, well, I'm a dad, and being a mom is different.
I think so.
And so, whatever you think about that, you think about that. You can drop a comment. But the women, I always say, you've got to take care of yourself because you're going to take care of your family. And if you're able to invest in yourself, like having the full battery
Yes.
on your cell phone,
Yes.
then you can be there all in for your kids, be present, and then the clients become a breeze. But if you're not taking care of yourself, the kids are crazy. They'll burn you out.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go try to help somebody in a stressful time like moving.
Yes.
They're just going to steamroll you.
100%. And mom guilt is real. And this is something that I feel like, again, if I'm not speaking for you, you know what I mean? But for me, I noticed very early on when I became a mom that if I didn't, like on the airplane, put my oxygen mask on first, that
Totally.
I was going to crash and burn. I'll never forget when my second child
It's a
was...
great analogy.
Right? Like when he was 6 weeks old. I'll never forget this. I was so sleep deprived. Like, this is like torture in some countries. Do you know what I mean? On the hour, every hour.
Totally
Think about
get
it.
it.
On the hour, every hour. I don't think I got one like consecutive run of sleep that was longer than 3 hours for 6 weeks. I broke out in shingles.
Liz was
I believe that.
was asking me before the pod. She's like, "What is that? Why do you have two rings?" And this is the Aura ring, so it tracks all your sleep. And I've been getting addicted to looking at that and trying to improve sleep. And as I'm looking at it and improving, I'm like, in 6 years, my wife hasn't had a good night of sleep.
Yeah.
Because she is the one that's like always snapping up, and
Yeah.
like I'm like, man, that's probably not good.
Yeah.
Like,
it
and
really affects your health. Your
Yeah.
immune system is affected. Your mood is affected.
Yeah.
Your sex
Absolutely.
drive is affected. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? All of this stuff. And so I have found that like when you make your health a priority, like I've leaned into therapy. I've leaned into reading self-development books. I'm hooked on it. Like audiobooks, podcasts, taking time to be with self and to sit in silence. It's if you're a hustle bustle person like I
Yes.
am, it is painfully hard to sit with yourself without your phone, with your notifications off, to have a moment of silence where you're not like, what do I need to be doing? I did it. And you have to really consciously calm your mind, whether it's through guided meditation or listening to music, but have that separated time. Because I've learned now that when I am by myself, because I'm separated and when I
Right.
don't have my kids
Right.
and the laundry's done and the house is clean and I'm having a glass of wine and I made myself a good meal and I exercised, checkity check, check, check. And now I'm sitting there in silence and I'm having a meltdown. Like that's not normal. Do you know what I mean? You should be able to savor those sweet moments. So if you find yourself almost having like a trauma response to silence, that is your signal to slow down and start taking care of yourself.
I so appreciate you sharing that, and even with Byron with his ring, because I turned 43 this year. I can't believe I'm 43.
You look amazing.
But thank you. But I'm starting to take care of myself, because I think for the last 2.5 years I've been terrible. I don't put my oxygen mask on first. And you're talking about sitting with yourself. I think when the market shifted about 2 months ago, and I'm telling you, I worked all the time, and I had my first weekend off. I was happy, but I was sad, because when I had those moments, it gives you time to reflect, to think about things. So my health has to be a priority. I think has to, and that is physically and mentally, emotionally, all of that. But when you say your ring and your wife hasn't had, right before I came to the conference, my daughter, who broke her toe, came into my bed, and it just never ends. It never ends. And I think we're constantly in motherhood continuing to be there for our children and our clients. And so prioritizing our health is super important.
Yeah, and it's different hacks. It's like a morning routine that works for somebody does not work maybe for somebody else, or it could be impossible for a single mother to have a, quotation, morning routine, right?
Yes.
But there's got to be a time and a place every single day that you are investing in yourself. And I think salespeople need to literally train like an athlete, whatever that looks like for you, so that you have that mental and physical clarity for the rest of the day.
And there is such a high statistic on real estate agents with mental health. And that's something that I am very thoughtful about when I interact. Even we were sharing yesterday, I'm in a room of a lot of women, and some women are sharing, where they are in their business. And to me, I'm looking for real relationships. I want to have those real conversations, because I don't value how much money you're making. And so to me, at this point in my life, that doesn't mean if you live that way, that's fine for you. But for me, it's not. I don't value how much somebody makes. It's about having those real life connections. So we shared this last night. I said, Taya, my circle has become so small. And surrounding yourself with the most positive and supportive people is so important. And not trying, like today we heard stories about over excess of buying or spending or not being thoughtful about savings, and we're caught up what it looks like and how we should look in front of our clients. And I think everybody needs to take a step back, because I think that's where a lot of mental health issues come about,
100%.
because you're putting on a front.
Two things. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because while I agree your core people should probably be small,
Yes.
but what you just said is going to help so many people. So by you continuing to talk about that so that other people can hear it, just like today when we were sitting there and somebody's message might have been the right thing for the right time for the right person.
Yes.
What you just said is going to be the same thing for somebody else listening to this pod.
Absolutely. And to add to that, I think that when women or men bring up the boasting, right? I think that they're searching for relatability. It's a smokescreen, if you will, for avoiding what's really going on underneath. And if that person has been really focusing and giving their all to their business and not their self-development, not their spirituality, not their mental health, not their family, then really all they have is this, they're all in on only their business. So talking about business is a safety thing for them. It would be scary and vulnerable to talk about the other things that they quite frankly haven't invested time in. And there's shame around that. There's a lack of control around that. So I think that people, whether it's intentional or unintentional, they go to the business thing thinking that they're being relatable, when in actuality that avoiding of vulnerability, which is what someone talked about on stage today, is huge. Another analogy that someone told me recently, they said, you know what, if friendships were the total of my friendships equated to $1, I would rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. right?
So
Like
true.
keeping those quality core people. And it's true. The older I've gotten,
I throw pennies away.
oh, totally. I mean, I leave
that
them,
would
you
kill
know?
my dad as an immigrant. As an
Meaning like-
immigrant, he
meaning like I
right,
don't like
just,
change.
Right. He would go crazy. So like Taya and I talked about being raised with immigrants as parents, and we had so many laughs because just sharing about what my school lunch looked like with Britta Brot and Kabaska.
Because people wouldn't know by looking at me. And I'm
Right.
like third generation, but like when everybody had kids really young in your family, and like my great grandmother was a refugee from Constantinople, Yaya Kitsa. And my grandmother like went to Greek school. That's where she met my grandfather. And like I would have feta cheese in my lunch.
Right.
And so people would be like, ew,
Don't
what's
throw your pennies
they'd be
away.
like, your lunch
That's right.
smells. And I'm like, it's feta. And those are Kalamata olives. Like,
And
what?
Taya knew when I told her about the Kabaska, she's like, the salami that you had to take off. I was dying.
It's the
So
detailed
those-
shot of the salami. They would cut it really thick, and then you'd have to peel the paper off, and
then
you
you
couldn't
had to-
take a bite. You had to
no.
take a side bite with like this, with the big teeth
the
in
molars,
the
the
back.
molars.
If you know, you know.
That's
Hey,
right.
if you know, you
That's
know.
Right.
Comment below if you've had
Yes.
like really like
Kibasco,
hard
feta,
salami.
yes.
Like
All right, I love you guys both. I could literally talk the rest of the day.
Let's do it all day.
We could, but
yes.
Bobby's making us wrap because
Yes.
Yeah.
Virtue Desk is waiting outside. But
Cool.
really, Liz, I just love getting to hang out with you and
Same.
spending the time. Really appreciate.
thank you for letting me
Like,
crash.
thanks for crashing.
Oh my
absolutely.
God, we're so happy.
Don't throw your pennies away.
That's right,
Invest
Byron.
in you,
That's right.
and just don't overthink.
Way to call
Correct.
it back.
Right?
Correct.
Think. Be thoughtful. But
That's
don't
right.
overthink.
Thanks, Byron.
Appreciate you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Byron.
Ty.
Awesome.